FC World Cup qualifiers match day 2. Make sure here in Asia, we have a lot to talk about as the results are now finally in. And we're going to start with
Inilah salah satu podcast luar negeri yang memberikan pujian terhadap Timnas Indonesia setelah berhasil menahan imbang Australia pada babak kualifikasi Piala Dunia 2026 yang lalu. Indonesia bisa.
About Indonesia and the result they got today at home hosting Australia, ending 0-0.
They completely shut out Australia and limited them to very few genuine chances.
Mind the people, it was just a few months ago where we saw this same Australian team defeat Indonesia 4-0 in the round of 16. To get a 0-0 result the way they did today, I think is very, very impressive. And there's a lot to look at on both sides here, but let's just focus in on Indonesia. A big reason for why they got that clean sheet was Martin Paes.
Yeah.
An incredible performance. Once again, he had about 2-3 really good saves that they could have been goals, and he kept...
Based off of these last two matches, and especially based off of this one, it's going to be when they face against physical teams. So against Saudi Arabia, you can outpace them, and it was clearly seen in that game. Honestly, Indonesia could have scored 2 or 3 goals against them if they were just a little bit more clinical off the pass. But second thing I'm going to be looking out for is just their defense. I can't believe it's tightened up this quickly over the last 8 months. It's phenomenal. I mean, as you already pointed out, 4 goals they led in the last time I played Australia. But this time, honestly, the defense was just as good as Australia's. And I think that's a really big important point to make, because that means they can go up against one of the best offenses in the region, or at least one of the best teams in the region, and hold their own. So I think for Indonesia, yes, they weren't able to win at home, but the defense really proved the point that they can play now in these qualifiers. How far Indonesia had to travel based off of the first game. I mean, they were in Saudi Arabia on Thursday. Cut to 4 days later, they had to travel over 1,000 miles to get to Indonesia. Pretty crazy. That's just Asian World Cup qualifiers in general. Japan had to do it. Saudi Arabia had to do it as well. Australia wasn't as aggressive, as they just had to go, a little bit northwest to get to Indonesia. But I do think, especially for a team like Indonesia that really relies on pace and energy, these travel distances might come into play in these World Cup qualifiers. So maybe get their points in those first match days, and the second match days maybe go for draws. I do think it's going to play a big factor.
My question to you is this then. With 2 Indonesian games now in the books, what would you grade their overall window so far? What would you grade it? Based off what we saw against Saudi Arabia and against Australia, where does it land?
It's an A. Like, it's top notch, right under an A+. And the reason why giving it so high, even though they only have 2 points after it, is you have to consider Indonesia has never even gotten close to this point. And you start off against 2 continental giants in Saudi Arabia and Australia, and you're able to go toe-to-toe with them, almost beat Saudi Arabia, and get a very well-earned draw against Australia. I think for a nation that is as inexperienced as Indonesia, they pass with flying colors. These are 2 very positive performances. So I thought, honestly, that they were going to lose one of these games.
Yeah, me too.
For me, the expectation was that they were going to drop even more points in this window. But instead, they played brilliant football against Saudi Arabia, and I really did think they earned the draw against Australia. Even though Australia played a little bit better, I think they deserved the point. So Indonesia going forward, I think, have proven to us and to the world, if they're watching, that they are going to fight not just for a 3rd or 4th place position in their group, they're going to fight for that 2nd place spot underneath Japan.